Yo, Jessica, long time no see.
At that voice, I was startled. There she was, the woman who had tormented me throughout high school, adorned with glittering jewels on her fingers and neck. It seemed she was still living the high life. I am Jessica, 46 years old. I married Logan, whom I met in college, 2 years after graduation. We had trouble conceiving, and at this age, I have an only child who just started preschool. Since he's still quite dependent, I brought him along to the high school reunion. And there was Isabella, my wealthy classmate, and she even spoke to me. Going back 30 years, to my high school days.
Sorry about the private school, Mom.
I decided to go to a private girls' high school.
Sorry, honey, I can't afford to pay all your tuition.
I came from a single-parent family. I had to attend school on a scholarship loan. Gold Star Academy, a posh school. There had a ranking system where students entering from kindergarten were called pure gold. From elementary school were 24K gold. From middle school were 18K gold. And those of us who entered at high school were labeled as plated. The elite classmates were, of course, pure gold. "Are you plated? I've never seen you before," was the first thing one of them said to me at high school. From what I heard from other classmates, this wealthy classmate's father was the CEO of a major company. He was the top donor to the school, even donating buildings, and his daughter was treated as the gold standard of pure gold, featured in the school's brochures. Anyway, I ended up being nicknamed Plated Jessica in high school. But I still enjoyed high school life. Only the wealthy classmate called me plated. However, she continued to call me plated every time we met. And then, the situation worsened. Back then, there was no awareness or consideration for personal matters. After class, when the teacher called me to the desk and handed me a form.
"This is the scholarship application. Fill it out and submit it to the office."
Hearing this, the wealthy classmate burst into laughter and exclaimed loudly,
"Hey everyone, did you hear? Plated Jessica can't even attend school without taking out loans. She wouldn't even be plated without her scholarship. She's totally plated."
I clenched the form in frustration. Yet, I couldn't talk back, thinking of my hard-working mother. The woman who inflicted such humiliation on me was right there, in front of me. The wealthy classmate then scrutinized my child and said,
Is this your only child? Do you have an older one?
Yeah, he's an only child. What about you?"
No way.
She chuckled.
I'm not an older mother. I already have 3 kids, and the youngest is in elementary school. You know, being over 40 with just 1 child, that can't be the case, right? My husband is from that huge company, Imperial Heavy Industries. Being a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids, all attending Gold Star Academy, that's like living the dream. Some people are just born under a lucky star. Compared to that, you're stuck in poverty and misery forever.
It was written all over her face that our origins and destinies were different.
Hey, I find it interesting what kind of life a plated has led, getting this far. Introduce your husband. He must be poo anyway.
Isabella's talk went on for a while.
Seeing the only child of an older parent, I'm convinced it's a cycle of poverty passing on to the spouse. Why did you have a child so late? You're just spreading poverty, aren't you? Didn't you think that through? It's bound to lead to poverty, right? But now I'm getting curious about how plated you are. I want to see. Show me your plated spouse. I want to see how much he looks like poverty, out of morbid curiosity.
She was saying whatever she wanted. Despite everything, I enjoyed high school. That's why I came here, wanting to reminisce with classmates. But still, to be approached and looked down upon by someone like her. But, all right, I'll have him pick me up today. I'll introduce him then. I decided. Time to come out. There's nothing to be ashamed of. I called my husband and explained the situation.
Sure, I'll come to pick you up.
His calm voice came through. Remember what you said earlier. You looked down on me. I won't forgive her for belittling my husband and child like this. I smiled at the thought of what was about to happen. After the reunion ended, Isabella clung to me. Her smirking face, sizing up my husband, was utterly distasteful. Then the pickup car arrived. It was my husband, Logan, in a blue common car. Isabella said, "Ah, of course, a common car. We have an Alfa Romeo, though." Already looking down on us. But the situation changed the moment the car stopped in front of me and Logan appeared from the driver's seat. Seeing Logan, she gasped and froze.
You are.
Seeing her flustered, I felt a lump in my throat dissolve.
Good evening.
Logan's voice was cheerful.
Mrs. Parker, you look well.
He knew her maiden name, Parker.
Oh, yes, good evening.
She was clearly flustered. Her face turned pale. I asked, "Hey, do you know each other?" The pretense was satisfying.
Well, it's more like you're really something, you know.
Logan sighed deeply.
Don't make me say it again. I told you I went to the boys' school nearby. This lady, she confessed her love to me during Valentine's in our sophomore year, suddenly acting all high and mighty, saying I suppose I could date you.
Isabella was trembling slightly.
But I had never actually talked to her. Being confessed to by a stranger, there's not much you can do. I turned her down, but then she threw her gift on the ground and screamed, "Pretend I dumped you," and ran off.
It's an old story, but it must be a dark chapter for her.
So, you did tell everyone, as promised, right, that I dumped you.
Isabella was still pale, barking out her words.
I did say, she asked me to pretend she dumped me, up to that point.
What?
Well, it's unheard of for a guy to be dumped by an unknown girl on Valentine's Day, right? Plus, someone whose side said, that's Isabella Parker from Gold Star, known for her high status and arrogance. You were so flashy, I ended up recognizing your face from occasionally passing by. When Jessica mentioned your name, it all came back to me. If you wanted to meet me, I had no reason to refuse.
Logan remained cool as ever. I said, with a bit of sarcasm, "Well, she was so persistent about meeting you." But it's true. I was just accommodating her request. Then I added, I had told Logan about being called plated in high school. When I mentioned a Parker, he remembered. We've often laughed about it together. But to think that you had once confessed your love to Logan, I never knew until now. For the record, I was the one who got proposed to by him. I stressed a laughingstock part. But yes, that's the reality. Elitist classmate who looked down on others using her parents' wealth. She was the real joke, thinking she was superior for such trivial reasons. And she's still at it, which is quite comical. Well, since this could turn into a long conversation, please take a seat in the back, Logan offered. Isabella climbed in, her legs trembling, which I didn't miss. But I was soon to realize that her anxiety had another cause. No sooner had she settled in the car than she blurted out, I heard from my husband that you've joined Imperial Heavy Industries as a management consultant."
Yes, that's correct.
Logan responded.
Why? How could it be Plated's husband?
She began to rant again, sitting in the back seat. Her yapping was much like a noisy Pomeranian. "You're with Imperial Heavy Industries now." I was clueless. Logan didn't often talk about his work. He stopped the car, turned off the engine, and turned to look at the back seat.
Imperial Heavy Industries is struggling. You might have sensed that. That's why they brought me in, the guy who fixed Samson Electronics.
Samson Electronics.
The well-known electronics firm in Korea. He was now tackling Imperial Heavy Industries with the same expertise that had revived Samson.
But why, of all people, does it have to be Plated's husband?
In her panic and hysteria, Isabella raised her voice, causing Logan and me to exchange looks of disbelief. "This is troublesome," Logan noted.
Because both my wife and I have the last name Brown.
It's a common name, so of course I wouldn't know you guys were married.
Well, yo.
I offered support to Logan, now at a loss for words. Thinking that a poor Plated couldn't possibly marry such an excellent man is just your prejudice. Face the reality. The reality. Isabella was silenced, and my ignorance of Logan's role at Imperial Heavy Industries led the situation to evolve in unforeseen ways. "Well, I came here because my wife asked me to," Logan continued.
You said her husband must be poor. That's what you said, right?
He asked her directly.
To be honest, I think your husband will end up poorer than me.
What?
She barked again at the sudden declaration. It was a cry of surprise, wondering what it was this time. Logan continued.
At Imperial Heavy Industries, I found the organization stuck in an old hierarchical system. It doesn't fit with the modern performance-based management. There was a lot of wasteful spending. It's only natural for employees who don't produce results to get demoted. And I was in charge of that assessment. I compiled a list of underperforming employees to present to the company, and your husband's name was on that list.
What?
The sudden mention of layoffs hit her like a bolt from the blue, her voice flipping in shock.
He's a director without delivering any performance. When I asked why, it turned out he was hired through family connections. Just a managerial position to play around on so-called business trips. With the management reform, such people were the first to go.
What?
Isn't he on a business trip right now? I think there will be news for him when he returns.
What?
Isabella's mouth trembled, no trace of her former elitism.
Mommy, that lady is so noisy.
My son, James, who was supposed to be asleep, covered his ears and spoke up. "Let's be quiet and leave her alone." I soothed James while glaring disdainfully at Isabella, suddenly faced with such distressing news. I hadn't expected things to come this far. But it must be an unbearable reality for her. But serves her right. Logan sighed.
Raising 3 kids, being wealthy and all that, but honestly, if your husband gets laid off approaching 50, it'll be tough. You'll need to work too, but it's his fault for slacking off in a nepotism job. The world doesn't run on privilege alone. I hope you'll welcome him warmly. Luck needs the push of effort to become a real force. You shouldn't be complacent.
Logan spoke earnestly, adding, "Sorry, but cutting costs is my job." I was surprised by his words, but I felt a desire to repay her for making fun of our child. "All your kids go to Gold Star Academy, right?"
Yes.
Her reply was shaky, probably shocked by the reality hitting her. I pressed on. "Gold Star Academy is expensive, so maybe all 3 will have to drop out. Huh? Too bad, it's such a great school."
The eldest is in high school, so maybe, with a scholarship.
I could see her desperately doing the math in her head. Scholarship. I couldn't help but laugh. "You told me, without a scholarship, you can't even afford school. You wouldn't even be plated without a loan. You're totally plated, and now you're considering putting your daughter in debt. Whether it's pure gold or 24K, that's ironic. Words can come back like a boomerang. Serves you right. Good luck at this age. My husband paid off my scholarship in full. Do you have anything lined up? Well, do your best." She was speechless.
I'm getting off here.
Isabella opened a rear door and stumbled out. She was unsteady and fell hard. There was a puddle, and she landed on her bottom in it, so her shoes and skirt were covered in mud. I addressed her one last time, witnessing her pitiful state. "Pure gold. It's the softest and most malleable. I'm looking forward to seeing how much you'll bend," I said dismissively, closing the door and leaving her covered in mud behind. According to Logan, the restructuring at Imperial Heavy Industries seemed to be successful. A significant number of layoffs were carried out, and it appears that Isabella's husband was among those affected, as per the list. Meanwhile, I encountered a small world phenomenon. My mother, who started as a part-time worker and worked her way up to become the manager, runs a dry cleaning store in a corner of a supermarket near the station. She called me to say, "Hey, Mrs. Parker's daughter has come to work here as a part-timer." It seems the Parker family's business collapsed along with the steel industry's decline many years ago, and their company building and mansion were put up for sale. Isabella lived luxuriously thanks to her husband's position at Imperial Heavy Industries, but now that he's been laid off, the family is at a loss. Hence, she applied for the part-time job at the cleaning store.
But she's still acting like a lady, inefficient, and complains that even sweaty shirts are too dirty to touch. She fusses that the iron is too hot and can't even fold shirts properly. so we had to let her go after a few days. She won't last anywhere with that attitude. I hired her out of sympathy because she said she had 3 kids, but when I tried to teach her, she'd snap. Who do you think I am? I saw her in the park recently, wearing tattered clothes, and it didn't seem like she had found a job yet.
I couldn't stop laughing. My life is reasonably happy with Logan's success as a consultant and our well-behaved son. I teach James to be self-sufficient and to treat everyone equally. There's no high or low in life. Everyone just lives according to their own values. Cherishing this simple truth, I watched Logan and James playing in the living room